nicht durchladen, aber da.
Okay. We are live, guys. Thank you. You turned on the light. I hope it helps a bit. I think it does. So we have 10 people online almost already. So it's a good start, I think. So welcome everyone to this third live stream with CareerFairy. My name is Maximilian. I'm the CTO of CareerFairy. And as some of you may know, we are here to kind of introduce new companies that some of you may not know about yet and help you decide whether basically working with these guys could be something for you, right? And so we are pretty lucky because initially we thought we would only have Alessandro with us, but Michael is here as well, right?
Hello.
So Michael, CTO of Microcaps, Alessandro,
Yes.
CEO of Microcaps. Thank you for being there.
Thank you so much for inviting us.
You're very welcome. Can you one of you just give us a brief history of Microcaps, telling us what you guys are doing, where you come from, who you are, just a few key facts about yourself, very quickly.
All right, so I'll start with that. So I am a mechanical engineer from a background at ETH, just about to finish my master's degree. And I know Alessandro since I think 8 or 9 years back. And we started working together when I had the chance to do my bachelor's thesis in the complex materials group, where he was doing his PhD. And then after the thesis, I handed in the work, but never stopped working in the lab. So that's where it all began for me.
My name is Alessandro. I'm a material scientist as a background. Did my material science bachelor here and then the master as well. Went for my master thesis to Boston, where actually it all started with microencapsulation. Then came back and worked on my PhD on scaling up, so building a machine that is actually now the core part of Microcaps. And then graduated in October. And then founded together with Microcaps, together with Michael, Microcaps. That's a good one. Together with Michael, Microcaps this March. Actually, the idea to do this started 1.5 years ago in December of 2017.
Very cool. And so very quickly, the product, can you just give us a few insights what the product is and what it's used for?
Absolutely. So microencapsulation is everywhere where a active ingredient has to be protected from the environment and then delivered to where it actually belongs. So the typical example would be in pharmaceutics, where an active pharmaceutical ingredient is protected from the acidic environment of the stomach and then later delivered to the intestines, where the actual uptake of the pharmaceutical ingredient happens. Another example would be in consumer goods it's fragrances in washing powders. So there's no use if it smells really nice during the washing cycle. It actually has to smell nice when you take your clothes out of the closet, and that's why the fragrances are encapsulated. Now the problem with nowadays encapsulation processes is that there is no size control on the capsule, and since the size has a strong effect, it essentially determines how the active ingredient is released. There is essentially no control on dosing and on release profile of the active ingredients with technologies that are available today. Now, what we have done at Microcaps, we have managed to upscale a process that is perfectly capable of producing size-controlled microcapsules. So our capsules all have exactly the same size, hence all behave exactly the same and are thus fully predictable and allow us to tailor dosing and release profiles of the active ingredient.
Thank you. Awesome. So that's
it's the first time I ever told.
Yes. We see that the story is well drilled.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so basically most of the infos that these guys have summarized are available also on CareerFairy. We did videos with both of them with I think a pretty complete overview of what Microcaps is and what these guys do. But obviously, like if we do these live streams, it's in order to enable you to ask your questions, which some of you already did. You can also ask questions right now. So there is a chat on the right side of your YouTube screen. You may have to create a YouTube channel, which takes like 2 clicks, and then you can ask questions. But we'll start by just going through some of the questions that people have asked. And you can start by just answering those, right?
That's perfect.
So yeah, we have one question which is pretty long, which is someone who asked, could it be possible for a physics student without any practical experience with materials or chemistry to work in research with you guys? Is that something that you would consider, like probably someone who needs a bit more training? Is it something that you could take on right now, or maybe not that much?
So for us, I mean, we have different directions that Microcaps we're working on. So it's interesting for material science, chemistry students working on formulation, and mechanical engineers that are capable of scaling up our process. So now, if there's no experience at all in a chemistry lab or as a mechanical engineer or electrical engineer or something in this direction, it would be rather hard to start with, because for us it's very important that you work independent on your project. So if we need to be like beside you and teach you what's distilled water and what chloroform is, that's going to be a bit complicated. Of course, I'm never saying no to this, but it's a big advantage if you have some experience already working on some extent on like in a chemistry, in a research, in this direction.
Yeah, I think that's. Sorry, do you want to?
No, just maybe to add something. So in general, what we do, I fully agree with Alessandro. So in general, what we do, we look for talented people. So it helps if you have a background in the lab and practical experience, but it's I would never discourage you from nevertheless contact us and say what you have in mind and what you think you can contribute. And there is no such thing as a direct no as an answer to this question, but it helps if you have laboratory experience, of course.
Yeah, I think in general, if you feel that you're interested in what these guys are doing and you're a student still, try to get a project maybe in a lab that's somewhat similar to what you guys are doing, and that will already be a very good experience in order to prepare for joining a company like Microcaps, right? So obviously in a startup, generally people look for people who have a little bit of experience, because you have to be productive fairly quickly, right?
Yeah.
And that's a problem that's pretty general among startups. But you can get this experience if you like what these guys are doing, and if you like what any startup is doing, you can get the necessary experience in some way, and you'll actually very quickly be very relevant, right, for projects such as yours.
Especially if you're in an environment of ETH or EPFL or University of Zurich, where there's a lot of hands-on training in laboratory. That is always a very, very, very good start to work on.
Cool. Okay. We have a question about you guys.
Yes.
When did you start working on Microcaps? I think you mentioned it already, but can you maybe just repeat very quickly, how long have you been working on this?
So I remember it pretty exactly. It was 1.5 years ago when I went to Michael and asked him if he wants to start working on a startup. So before it was really a project, it was my PhD, it was scaling up, but trying to reach what we have now, but without really knowing. I mean, it was always the dream in the background to do a startup, but it was 1.5 years ago when we actually decided to go for a startup. Was still a project. Then the first thing we did was applying for some grants for the Pioneer Fellowship and work on a prototype. That was the first steps we did. So like looking for money, all started then in December 2017. Then really started for February 18 to look for that. That was at that time.
So roughly 1.5 years old, right? This project.
Exactly, and then we founded this March. So a year later, we incorporated.
Congratulations. What would you consider? So these are all questions that you guys have asked before the live stream. I'm basically going through them. Again, if you want to ask questions right now, there is a chat on the YouTube screen, which you can use. Again, it's only 2 clicks. You can go through it and just ask us questions right away. I think both would be very, very happy to answer them.
Yes.
What would you consider to be an advantage working at a startup versus a large company in the pharma industry? So you're not really in the pharma industry, right? Would you say?
Yeah. Well, the technology is extremely applicable in the pharma industry. So I cannot tell anything about the advantage in the pharma industry since I've never worked in a big company in the pharma industry. However, in general, I think the advantages and disadvantages of small companies versus big companies tend to be the same across fields. So I'm going to tell a little bit about what is the advantage in my view of a small company. So here everything is, we try to move fast, we try to keep it non-bureaucratic, we try to work, straightforward and efficient processes, and if there are processes at all. So we're just doing. So that is the big difference that I experience from what I am doing now compared to when I did an internship in a big company. So one example there is once I waited an entire week to get the software license, where it was absolutely clear from the very beginning that I am going to get it, because otherwise I would have been idle sitting in an office for 4 months. So that annoyed me to an extent. Well, it was extremely annoying waiting for a week. This would never happen. These decisions, they're typically, so as a contrast, we had to decide if we buy certain lab equipment. So we sat across each other, said, do we need it? Yes, we need it. Okay, we buy it. So the decision process was exactly 30 seconds long. So that's one of the big advantages of small companies versus big companies, and what you typically hear from people as well. So
Yes, completely agree. Completely agree. So if you look for, security, and you know exactly what you do every day, and you want to work from 9 to 5, exactly this is your role, then it's perfectly in a big, large company where you have a specific role. Here, I mean, we need all-rounders. We need people that do different types of stuff. That's very important. What you do here, it's every day a new thing. Every day we're facing new challenges, which we need to tackle, which of course large company also do, but they distribute it among a lot of different people. And for us, it's similar challenges, but just smaller group of people. So there is a lot of changing, a lot of different tasks that you need to fulfill every single day.
Yeah, you will become good at stuff you didn't expect before joining, I think, right?
Yes,
yes.
I'm sure you would agree on that.
Absolutely, yeah. It's generally very surprising.
Are you also doing one of those for CareerFairy?
We should. I mean, again, we're very new. We're not hiring right now, but we will definitely. Yeah, we should. We should do one for CareerFairy. I mean, it would be an interesting experience. So I have one question: how is your microfluidic technology different from existing solutions? So I don't know if the question makes sense.
Well, I can show it to you.
Ah, awesome.
So I will start explaining while he gets the model. So one significant difference is
that's the state of the art. It's all assembled by hand. It's glued together with epoxy. It's not reproducible, and you can produce 5 grams per hour. That's state of the art. Then you start to have maybe photolithography. You still stay in the same region. What we really did is scaling up this process by a factor of 1,000 on a similar size, so device that looks like that. With this, we can really close the gap that was always. So far, microfluidics was always used only for laboratory scales. The only thing you could use it in industry is for flow meters, where you just need a few milligram of particles to control and check the flow. Otherwise, it was not applicable. That's why the big companies are still using these big shearing tanks and spray dryers, so resulting in uncontrolled sizes. So there is actually a need, even though that they're testing, the R&D is working with those types, because they see the clear advantage, but they never were able to close the gap and actually scale up the process. So that's the big advantage of what we're doing at Microcaps, is really this factor of 1,000. So we have these 1,000 channels on a device that looks like this.
And then to get a little bit technical just for a short time, what enables our technology to be scalable is the mechanism of how the droplet is formed is different. So in the older state-of-the-art devices, it was a shear force mechanism, so droplets were sheared off, and our device is essentially, there's no more shear forces in forming the droplet, which makes the formation flow rate independent, which again allows us to scale up the process. So there's actually a physical difference in how the droplet is formed that allowed us to scale up these channels and make a large number and work them at the same time.
And this has all been developed and characterized and further scaled up in the last 4.5 years.
And if you really want to know how it works, I can recommend to check Alessandro's papers. They're published. As students, you have free access to that. It's interesting. Go and have a read.
Or you step by and we'll tell you.
That's the easiest solution, involving coffee.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So if someone is interested in coming by and just meeting you guys, that's possible, right?
Absolutely.
So they are in the HCI, right?
Yes.
Yes.
We're friendly people. Can always speak.
Yeah, I think that's one of the purposes of the live stream, is just to show that you guys are pretty cool and that,
not dangerous.
Not too dangerous. That's true. Yeah. So what is your key market? You said, right, there are different markets you're in.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
So there's, as Michael explained before, there's different markets where microencapsulation is used. And he gave you the example of washing powder, which is, of course, not our key market because that's a very low margin. And you don't profit anyways if you can exactly tell that your washing powder is released after 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So obviously our key markets are the food industry, the cosmetics industry, and the pharma industry. So the pharma industry is, of course, the most significant because you can really change people's life with what we're doing. You can really come up with new medical treatments that you can directly say, hey, you have a release after that and that many minutes or after that and that many hours. So you can prolong the release up to 6 months, that you have, or maybe even 12 months, that you have a long release inside your body, and that you can absolutely control what you're doing. So there's these different markets, there's different types of encapsulation. So this drug delivery in pharma, but as well, if you go to food, it's about flavor delivery, it's about probiotic delivery. If you go to the cosmetics, it's about fragrance delivery. So there's all different fields that have different benefits that profit from different things. In pharma, it's really about the release, the timed release. Whereas in cosmetics, it's pure looks. So it looks fantastic. You have like very big capsules that you can enjoy seeing them. So there's different benefits for different applications.
Yeah. And let's say someone with more of a business background was to watch this and was interested in microcaps.
Yes.
What would you say would like the most challenging field, like market for you to enter in?
Pharmaceuticals,
yes.
Because of regulations. So typically, to bring a new pharmaceutical product on the market, the road to market is 10 years, with clinical trials, etc. However, it is also by far the most attractive because there lies the real value of size-controlled microcapsules and particles, because there you can make a difference.
But 10 years is now for a new product. So with our technology, which is more a machine to create like a drug delivery platform, it would be shorter, but still there's some regulatory hurdles that you need to overcome to actually be able to produce that.
Yeah, cool. Awesome.
And of course, also for business background. I mean, if any student is watching us, we're also interested in those type. I mean, we're not only limited to chemistry, material science, and mechanical engineering, but there's always also room for other types in this direction.
Right now, already?
Absolutely, yeah. We have the first person hired from HSG St. Gallen, so there's a lot of work in this direction as well.
Cool. Okay, next question. What can a student work on at Microcaps? So I guess it's someone who would do like a thesis work maybe, or be there for a shorter amount of time. What could he do like for working with you?
So we have at the moment, I think 6 students working with us, either on master thesis or bachelor thesis. There's different projects going on. So there's some in pharmaceutical field. There's some in the nutraceutical field. There's some on scaling up, so mechanical engineering to scale up. That's pretty wide, the field of application. But for us, quite important is that if you come, that you stay for a certain amount of time without like too many breaks inside. That's quite important. Plus, it's always beneficial if you would stay for like a master thesis, which is 6 months long, because you can just work more in depth, and that's also way more attractive for you guys than if you just spend 2 months and then it's just start to get exciting after the 2 months, and then you need to leave again because the time is over. But absolutely, we have a lot of students here.
Do you have an example of one of the theses that's going on right now?
Yeah, there's
someone in the background here.
Yeah. Maybe we can get her in.
She just started. You can do your 30 seconds, please.
30 seconds of fame.
I'm Julia. I just started my master's thesis here 3 weeks ago, and I'm working on a probiotic delivery system. So probiotics are basically, it's like food or capsules that you can eat. And they contain bacteria which help your gut flora and can also be like beneficial to your whole immune system. And we're trying to use the microfluidics technology to develop a new delivery system, which should overcome the problem that most of the bacteria is usually killed in the stomach.
Perfect. Protect and deliver.
Yeah.
Is that your motto?
30 seconds, perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
absolutely.
Yeah.
A very good speech.
Thanks.
She's right for the real job already.
And as you just saw, you risk ending up in a live stream if you join us.
Yeah,
And you need to be able to pitch. That's very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the heart of a startup. Huh?
Yeah, of course.
Do you guys need people with a pharma background? So I'm reading questions that people have asked on CareerFairy before the stream, right? So the next question is, does Microcaps need people with a pharma background? So you talk a lot about people with mechanical engineering and material science. Do you need people who have studied pharmaceutical science?
That is a
Absolutely.
very easy one. Yes.
So also for research, right? It would be similar work.
Absolutely.
For everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you've worked in pharma or studied pharmaceutical science, absolutely.
We're
Because-
interested in talent as well. I mean, that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
So motivation, talent, like independence, that's goes in the same direction. Pharma, of course, and the pharmaceutical science, they know things that we don't know, and we're also always very happy to learn from people that are coming here. So
Yeah, I think in general, if so, you tell me if I'm wrong, but even if you don't have like a super in-depth skills about what you guys are doing right now, but you have a background that is related somehow, you will be able to learn, right? And you will be able to contribute.
Absolutely. And our goal is always to hire people that are smarter than us, that then tell us what we have to do.
exactly.
Very good. And they will listen, right?
Yeah, we will, of course.
Awesome. Yeah. Last question. Do you offer part-time jobs? Okay, so probably not a thesis. Someone who studies still has to take lectures, but wants to work next to his studies. Is that something that you would consider, or do you want someone who's full-time with you, basically?
So I definitely prepare someone who's full-time. Again, this would probably depend on the background. So if it's a part-time job as in supporting in the lab and doing, because then it's a job, then it's not a thesis, so we can be more specific in telling what they'd have to do. And there's a lot of work to be done in the lab. So if somebody with laboratory experience says, look, I'm free on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and I would want to work and do experiments for you guys, then that is a possibility, yes. But at the moment, we're trying to build, to build up a team that actually then stays. So would prefer full time, but again, not going to say no and then miss out some great talent. So
You agree?
Yeah, of course.
Just get in touch and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you're interested, particularly for a startup, not every role is out there with a precise job description, right? So if you're interested, just get in touch. We will give you both of your emails, right? Probably, and you can just write,
sure.
right? And
Also, the contact form on the webpage, it ends up in our inbox. So.
Exactly. Yeah, just through CareerFairy, you can either go to your guys' website directly, or through us, you can ask questions. So there's tons of ways to get in touch, right?
Yeah.
There's no excuse there. Okay, I think we went through most of the questions. Is there anything that you want to get out there? Any message? Any last minute shout out?
Well,
if you're interested, come get in touch with us, and we'll have a look what we can do.
yeah, and
in
follow
more
us
detail.
otherwise on our webpage, on social media,
Yes.
where you can see what's going on, where we are, where we're presenting. If you're interested to get in contact with us, it's always a very good way to see where we are. Otherwise, write us,
Exactly.
visit us, and we're happy to talk to you.
Excited to hearing from you.
Thank you very much, guys. Yeah, very soon on CareerFairy, you'll also be able to sort of build a mechanism where you can kind of follow also CareerFairy as soon as there's new content from you guys, whether it's some media content that we publish, you'll be able to just get it on your feed somehow right away. So you'll be able to also follow you through CareerFairy very soon. But yeah, there's again tons of ways to get to know more about Microcaps. And yeah, also about other companies. Very soon we'll have more live streams, hopefully, with more companies so that you can get a better insight into where you should work ultimately. And I think that's a great way to find out more about what life is within the company, right? We even see like the people who are doing the real work.
That's good. That's
in the background.
Somebody, at least somebody is working.
So that's real life ultimately.
Well,
He's
Max
working.
is working.
Right? Yeah, you're just chilling. That's awesome. So the founder's always chilling. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining in, and see you in the next live stream.
Bye.
Bye-bye.